It was supposed to be a routine Friday evening. I had just finished a long shift at the restaurant where I worked as an assistant manager. My name is Rachel Lawson, and I'm 29, living in a quiet suburb just outside Dallas, Texas. I had taken a few extra hours because one of the newer servers had called in sick, and as always, I was the one who volunteered to cover. The sky had already turned dusky when I finally walked out of the back door of the restaurant, my purse slung over my shoulder and my keys jingling in my hand. I slid into my aging Honda Civic and turned the key, letting out a sigh of relief when it started without complaint. My paycheck was late, and the last thing I needed was car trouble. I was already thinking about the leftovers I'd bring home for my dog, Max, and how I'd unwind with a shower and my favorite podcast. But fate had something entirely different in store. I was cruising down a back road that I normally avoided at night. It was faster but also less patrolled, filled with potholes and occasionally the eerie glint of raccoon eyes. I wasn't speeding. Maybe 5 over, at most. That's why I was shocked when I saw the flashing red and blue lights behind me. "Great," I muttered, pulling over to the gravel shoulder. I rolled down the window as the officer approached, trying to keep calm. My hands stayed on the wheel, just like my dad had taught me. "Good evening, ma'am," the officer said. He was tall, probably in his late 30s, with a strong jawline and a polite but firm demeanor. His badge read Officer Matthews. "Good evening, officer," I replied, doing my best to smile despite my anxiety. "Was I speeding?" "Not exactly," he said, tilting his head. "Your taillight is out." "Oh," I blinked. "I didn't realize." "I'm really sorry." He nodded. "It happens. Can I see your license and registration?" I handed them over, and he walked back to his cruiser. I watched him through the side mirror, my heart pounding for no good reason. It should have been a simple warning or at worst a small ticket. But when he returned, his face had changed. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." I blinked. What? Why?" "I'll explain everything, but please step out of the vehicle." A pit formed in my stomach. I obeyed, slowly opening my door and stepping out into the warm evening air. I stood there, clutching my purse, as he motioned for me to follow him to the back of my car. "There seems to be an issue," he said. "This car's plates match a vehicle that was reported stolen earlier this week." My heart dropped. "Stolen? No, this is my car. I've had it for years." "I believe you," he said calmly, "but I still have to follow protocol. Do you have any documentation, proof of ownership?" "It's in the glove box," I said, my voice shaking. "I swear I didn't steal this car. You can call my insurance or my mechanic, anyone." He paused, watching me carefully. "I don't think you did. But this is serious. If you don't mind, stay right here. I'm going to check a few things." He walked back to his car and made a few calls. I stood there helplessly, watching as other cars whizzed by. My knees were starting to ache from standing so long. When he returned 10 minutes later, he looked more relaxed. "You are telling the truth," he said with a small smile. "There was a clerical error at the DMV. The wrong plate number was listed in the report. Your car is clean." I nearly collapsed with relief. "Oh my God. Thank you." That scared me. "I'm really sorry for the trouble," he said, glancing at me thoughtfully. "It's rare, but mistakes like this do happen." "I understand," I said, even though my nerves were still rattled. "Can I go now?" He hesitated. "Before you do, may I ask you something personal?" That was unexpected. Sure." He rubbed the back of his neck. "This is completely off-duty and probably not appropriate, but do you happen to know someone named Jeremy Lawson?" My breath caught. "Yes, he was my brother." "I thought so," he said quietly. "I went to high school with Jeremy. We were best friends. I was with him the night he passed." Suddenly, the world shifted. My brother Jeremy had died 10 years ago in a motorcycle accident. I had never known much about the details, just that he was hit by a drunk driver while coming home from a party. My parents couldn't talk about it, and I was too young to ask the right questions. Seeing this man, this officer who had randomly pulled me over, mention his name so casually opened a wound I thought had long scarred over. "You were there?" I whispered. He nodded solemnly. "Yes. I was the one who called 911. I've thought about that night for years. Tears welled up in my eyes. Why didn't you ever come to see us? Tell us? I tried, he said. I wrote letters. I even came by once, but your mom slammed the door. I don't blame her. My mind raced. So much about that night had been a mystery to me. And now, out of nowhere, I was standing on a roadside, talking to someone who might have answers I'd been searching for since I was 19. Can we talk? I asked impulsively. He looked surprised, then nodded.
Sure.
I'm off shift in 30 minutes. There's a diner just a few miles up. You want to meet there?
Yes.
Please. He handed me back my license and smiled for the first time. I'll see you soon, Rachel. At the diner, we sat in a booth by the window. The place was mostly empty, except for an older couple drinking coffee and a waitress scrolling on her phone. Jeremy talked about you all the time. Officer Matthews, whose first name I learned was Ethan, began. He loved you so much. Said you were the smartest kid he knew. I couldn't help but smile through my tears. He was my hero. We talked for hours. He told me how Jeremy had left the party early because he was worried about a storm, that he hadn't been drinking and that he wasn't at fault, that the other driver had run a red light. It was everything I never knew I needed to hear. Then Ethan surprised me again. After Jeremy passed, I joined the police force. I guess I wanted to make sure things like that never happened again. He inspired me. The twist of fate that had brought us together didn't feel like coincidence anymore. It felt like something bigger. I could feel my brother's presence in that booth, in the warm hum of the neon lights, in the smile of the man across from me who had once been like a brother to him. Weeks passed, then months. Ethan and I stayed in touch. He became someone I could talk to, someone who made me laugh, who reminded me of the part of Jeremy I'd lost. He even met my parents, and after a long, emotional conversation, my mother forgave him for the pain she had misplaced on someone who had only tried to help. One spring evening, as we walked Max through the park, Ethan stopped under the streetlight and took my hand. I know this started in the strangest way possible, he said. But I'm grateful I pulled you over that night. I smiled. So am I. And just like that, something unexpected turned into something beautiful. A twist I never could have imagined became the start of a new chapter. One built on memory, healing, and the kind of love that grows when you least expect it.